So I want to talk about the four flows of love. The four flows of love. And I have another video when I kind of went into the four flows of love. If you saw that one already, but I want to talk about it again here a little bit. So the four flows of love. The first flow of love is receiving Yah's love. All right, the first flow of love, and let me go back for a moment. The four areas that we're going to be addressing in the book is dealing with the four flows of the four flows of love, right? So, and it's four things that is the four areas that we have to focus on that I've talked about in the last videos that we have to focus on, keeping our fire going, right? Keeping the love flowing. So, the first area is receiving Yah's love, and I'm reading here from the book, page 39. It has the image there, and it talks about the four flows of love, and it says, love flows down to us from the Father like the sun and rain flows down to the soil to nourish the seed. Love flows down to us from the Father like the sun and rain flows down to the soil to nourish the seed. So this first flow of love, if you look at it as a picture, look at imagine you put a seed in the soil. Put a seed in the soil. And you're putting that seed into the ground where it can't be seen. It's in a dark place, right? But this seed has everything in it that's necessary for it to thrive. But nothing happens until you put the seed in the ground. So once the seed is in the soil, in order for the seed to, first of all, die, the seed has to die to itself, to its shell, its outer shell. It has to let it go in order to release what's inside of it, which is the life, right? The life of whatever type of tree or plant that is going to grow. So once that happens, it goes in the ground. What causes it to begin to grow is the environment, it being in the soil. And then it responds to being within the soil, and it responds to the temperature in the atmosphere. So the temperature has to be right. So the sun shines down, right? That's where the heat comes from. And then the soil, the water. So the rain comes down to water the soil, and then the sun is shining to be able to provide the heat that's needed, right? So the sun is providing heat to be able to help the seed to be able to germinate and do what it needs to do. And then the water, the rain comes down to be able to provide the moisture that is needed, right, for that seed. So this environment that is created allows this seed to die to itself and then release the life inside of it, right? So what the Most High does for us is He creates the environment for us to be willing to surrender our flesh, to die to our flesh, so that the spirit can be able to come forth, right? So that is the environment that the Most High provides for us. So He goes ahead of us, right? He doesn't expect something from us that is coming from ourselves, right? Because later on He's going to ask us to respond to His love. But in order to do that, we have to first receive His love. So He provides an environment of love for us where He is shining down His light. He's shining down His light. He's providing His water, His nourishment. So He nourishes us and provides us what's necessary for us to be willing to shed that flesh and allow, the spirit that He puts inside of us to be able to come forth and live. So He provides the environment, right? He provides the environment. That love flows down and nourishes the soil and nourishes the seed and causes growth to be able to happen. So what happens during that period of the seed? So now that the shell of that seed releases and roots begin to grow, right? Roots begin to grow down into the soil, and the roots are pulling in the moisture, the water, right? So the roots are going to begin to pull in the water and the moisture, so that the seed can be able to flourish, right? So the roots are going to be able to start to stretch out And then what do you see? What happens next? You start to see something come up from the soil, right? So it starts to come upward. So we're going to go to the next part. It says the first flow is receiving Yah's love. The second flow is responding to Yah's love. And this is the portion of where we love Yah back. Right, so it says here, our love flows up to the Father like the seed that responds and dies to its outer flesh and begins to take root downward and break forth upward from the soil. So Yah creates the environment. He loves us, and we receive that love. As we receive that love, we respond to his love by dying to that outer flesh and beginning to become rooted in him. We take root downward, right? And we break forth upward from the soil, right? And there's a verse that says that that's what Yah's remnant, his people would do, right? That's what his people would do, would take root downward and break forth upward, right? So that's what happens as we respond to Yah's love. So we begin to get rooted in his love, become rooted and established in his love, and then we begin to grow. And as we penetrate that soil and we begin to grow up, we begin to put ourselves in a position where we'll be able to grow into maturity, right? And we'll start to become mature, and then eventually we'll start to bear fruit, right? So we want to receive Yah's love. We want to respond to Yah's love. The next thing is that we guard Yah's love within. We want to guard Yah's love within. And this is what loving ourselves is. And we want to look at what it looks like to love ourselves when we belong to Yah, right? Because it's a difference in how the world thinks about loving themselves and then what our mindset is towards loving ourselves. So it says here, we stand in our love with Yah and let it flow inwardly, just as the plant continues to absorb nourishment from the sun and the rain and its roots in the soil. It regulates itself, distributing its resources according to its needs. So as a plant grows, it's continually, so the plant is always going to be dependent on water, the soil, and the sun. It never stops from the inception. For the duration of its life, it's going to be dependent on those things. So we're always going to be dependent on being in a place to receive Yah's love and to abide in Yah's love. And the moment that we stop that, we start to die, right? So we are always taking in these resources. But something that I learned from the couple of years where I got an opportunity to do some gardening is that the plant will regulate those resources within itself and as needed, right? So what I mean by that, there's times where the plant will, if you look at the leaves on the plant, a plant that has leaves or that has flowers, right? There's times where you'll see it wilt. it'll wilt, right? And when I was trying to figure out what was going on, I realized that it said that the plant was, if one part of the plant needs more resources, another part of the plant will compensate for it, right? So sometimes there's a time in a lifespan where the roots need the most support. So the resources within that plant will go to the root, and other parts will kind of, not that it depletes it, but it limits how much it's pulling on, right? So this is when it talks about, sometimes you have to prune. I'm trying to remember what plant it was that I was doing. If was it just the tomatoes? It was something that talked about pruning. So you have to. Sometimes you have too many branches on something, and they're branches that aren't really going to produce any fruit, but they're just producing leaves. So it'll tell you to prune some of those branches off that just have the leaves that aren't the main branches, because the resources are going to keep those parts alive, and you want to redirect that to other parts so that there could be more growth, right? All of the plant is taking up energy, so you want to make sure that you want to prune those parts that aren't necessary. You want to cut those parts back, that aren't necessary so that the tree can flourish. And then when the tree is in different parts of the tree or the plant is in different parts of its lifespan, sometimes it needs the branches may need more. Sometimes the flower portion may need more, or the leaves may need more. The fruit may need more. So when it gets to the point of producing fruit, the energy and resources is going to go to that portion. So the point is that the plant kind of self-regulates that, right? It regulates what is necessary for the development of growth that it's in. So it's regulating those things. So while it is dependent on the outside resources, that are coming from the Most High, that is being pulled into it, it also is pulling on the wisdom to be able to regulate itself in a way that is best for the health and the growth of that plant, of that tree, right? So it has a type of intelligence within it, within the life in it, right? So we're the same way in that we have to distribute the resources that the Most High has given us. So with the love that the Most High has poured out on us, we have to be able to guard it and navigate it in a way that, as we're responding to outside situations, as we're responding to life, as we're walking through life and dealing with people, dealing with circumstances and situations, we are regulating in a way so that we are not, allowing the flowers to die or the fruit to die because we're busy over here with another portion. The fruit is dying because we're sending all this energy to branches that aren't prepared, they have leaves and no fruit on it, right? So we're not regulating ourselves in the right way. We're causing our fruitfulness to die off and not allowing ourselves to be to flourish in the right way. So we have to regulate ourselves in this world and navigate ourselves in this world, being stewards over the life that Yah has placed in us, the life that's flowing within us. We have to be a steward over that so that we can thrive in Yah's love. All right, so that's the third flow of love. The fourth flow of love is dealing with extending Yah's love, which is walking in love towards others, loving people, extending Yah's love to other people. All right, so our love flows out to others like the plant that grows up to maturity and grows branches that are able to bear fruit to feed those around it. So the plant grows up, branches, leaves, flowers, fruit. The fruit comes from it. Now you've grown to the point where you can bear fruit. That fruit is for others to be able to partake of and eat. And that fruit should be it shouldn't be sour, right? So the way that we are nurtured, the way that we receive the nurturing and the way that we regulate the nurturing is going to determine whether or not our fruit is going to be in season, if it's going to be edible, if it's going to be bitter, or if it's going to be nourishing with the nutrients in it that's necessary to be able to feed others and that for them to be able to go through that process for themselves, right? So we want to be able to have the love developed in us so that we have love to give to others and others are receiving love and taking that to be able to heal and grow and continue that process, right? So we want to be able to grow up to that maturity and bear the fruit of love that comes from His Spirit, and this flow continues, right? So that's just a kind of a general sense of the four flows of love and where the idea kind of comes from, and how that all flows together. And that is what the bulk of the rest of the book. So from this chapter here, this all so far has been the introduction and kind of the foundation. So now we're going to go into each of those four flows of love and look deeper at what that looks like. What does it look like to be able to walk these things out? All right. So I hope that put an image in your mind that made sense. And I look forward to getting into the rest of these four flows of love. Shalom.